What's the best case of instant karma you've witnessed? In high school. Dude spanks a girl's ass and run with girl in hot pursuit. Friend of girl blocks doorway so dude jumps out a window. Unfortunately, dude underestimates his height and plunks his head into top frame of the window. Hard enough that dude crumples into the ground. In serious pain and unable to stand or see for a few minutes. Dude's glasses are broken too. Even dude's friends who he was trying to impress in the first place are now laughing at him. Dude learned his lesson. I was, dude. A few years ago now. There were terrible gales of wind in my town. Like they would be pushing you down the street at times. At the place I worked at, there seemed to be a funnel effect due to the size of the building and narrow streets which made the wind even stronger. To the point you could almost lean backwards as you walked. Which you had to do to stop yourself from being pushed forward. Well, one time I came out of work. Walked down the road in the strong winds to the corner. Where there was an adjacent road. And the wind picked up something crazy. And practically fired me out around the corner. Unbeknownst to me, there was an old woman coming the other way. Who saw me just randomly fly out from around the corner. And looked at me like I was a prize idiot just messing around. I looked back to see her reach this corner. Where the wind was still blowing strong. And it sent her flying out into the road. Luckily nothing was coming at the time. But it was very much a young man. Don't act like that. She gets to corner and wind blows. Ugh. This arsehole cut into my lane. Forcing me to brake hard the other week. I honked and he turned around in his car. While still driving. To flip me off. He didn't see the car in front of him stopping at a red light and crashed into the car in front of him. I had a lot of fun telling the police what had happened. During my lunch break at work a few years ago, I ran over to this convenience store that sold a few deli items and also had a lunch of the day special. That day it was spaghetti. I walked into the store and headed to the back to the coolers to grab a drink, and I start walking over to the line that was formed to grab a lunch. This older woman, who was talking to a woman not even close to the line, saw me walking and literally strong-armed me to get in front of me. She full-on shoulder checked me. The cashier saw it, looked at me, and I just shook my head as if to not call her out on it. She gets 2 orders of spaghetti. They come in a styrofoam compartment tray. She walked towards the door and someone comes in that she knows, so she's saying hi. I pay for my food and I'm out the door. As I'm walking to my truck, I hear a loud ooh-off. I turn around and this woman is planked on the ground with spaghetti and meat sauce all over her white shirt. Playing a beer league slow pitch softball game once. The backstop of this field was a big chain link fence half dome that extended out over home plate. The batter was mouthing off about how he was gonna hit middle on purpose, hit the ball back at our pitcher trying to injure him, because he was mad that our team was steamrolling his. He proceeds to pop the first pitch straight up. The ball hits him. I just walked into a crowded bar with my friend back when we were in our early 20s. Make our way around the entrance handrails and bam, this dude smashes his shoulder into mine, knocking me back. Thinking it was just an accident caused by a crowded bar, I start to recover and this dude throws his shoulder into me again. Before I can even begin to react to the second more aggressive hit, this monstrosity of a bouncer watching the whole things go down picks the guy up and literally throws him out the exit doors. It all happened in a matter of 5 seconds. I don't think any other person in that bar, nor my friend, even saw it go down. A dirtbag snatched an elderly lady's purse and got run over by a befuddled 80-year-old man while fleeing. Not hit. Run over by a Crown Victoria. Was gnarly. One time I smiled at someone walking by. Then I saw them smile at somebody, who then smiled at somebody else. It was like a happy karma train. Some say the smile train is still going on. A few years back, I was traveling on the interstate to meet some friends who attended a different college than I did for a weekend. On the way there, I'm in the right-hand lane, minding my own business, when a car tries to cut me off. No big deal, right? Except she ended up clipping my bumper and running me off the road. With her driving speeds of 80-85 mph. Other driver keeps on going along her merry way. While I'm on the shoulder attempting to contact the local police to report an accident. 5 minutes later, a state trooper pulls up behind me and asks what happened. I explain the situation. Describe the other vehicle, including a partial license plate number. And he asked if my car was still drivable. After confirming that it was, he said, "Just follow me up to this next exit. I got a call about a driver who is out of gas and needs assistance." Double quote. We pull up to the next exit just shy of a gas station. Sure enough, it was the girl who was the other party in my hit and run. She tried to deny anything occurred. Until the trooper looked at my front bumper damage. And her back end damage. Assessed the paint colors matched. Etc. Bonus is that her plate had the partial information I had gathered as she sped away. Turns out, girl has no insurance and no license. Gets hauled off to jail on a hit and run. All because she couldn't slow her ass down and be a decent driver. A lifted pickup truck with one of those train horns was driving aggressively through morning work traffic and honking at people who got in his way. He did it to an unmarked sheriff, or trooper, some kind of law enforcement, and promptly got his ass pulled over. So, when one of those trucks that are unnecessarily lifted high up is pulled over, what does the cop do? Stand on the foothold? They call for backup, then one cop gets on his hands and knees and becomes a human step. Quite recently, we got our tests back in German. One of my classmates had studied only the night before, but gotten 1. 5/10. Classmate 2, nerdy type. Always starts studying 2 weeks in advance, just stood and laughed at him. Until he got his test back. He got a 1/10. He's still not over it. Reminds me of my classmate. Passing grade was 32 out of 80. A buddy of mine got 33. The classmate was laughing quite a lot. Until he got his. It was something like 27. He had to take the test again. The classmate was a good sport about it though. Laughed about it and scored much better the second time. Was working at a trampoline park which had 2 different dodgeball areas. One for kids 12 and under. Another for 13 and up. Annoying little of a kid kept trying to sneak into the 13 and up game. Running around. Breaking rules. And basically being a pain. We couldn't really do much about it. Eventually I just let him sneak on and not a moment later he got smacked beautifully in the face with a rubber ball. Actually sent him flying back a couple feet. He wasn't so keen to play after that. I was driving on the freeway one day and needed to get over. I checked to make sure it was clear. Signaled and changed lanes. I didn't realize there was an Escalade coming up behind at over 100 miles per hour in that lane. He was going so fast that the lane looked clear when I checked 1 second ago. Close bracket. The Escalade decided to teach me a lesson by acting like it wasn't going to stop and plow into me. There were now cars on both sides of me so I couldn't swerve out of the way. So the Escalade screams up until last possible second and then hits the brakes hard so he matches my speed about a foot away from my bumper. While this is happening I'm freaking out and wobbling the car cause I think I'm going to get creamed. The cop that was 1 lane over and 2 cars back immediately flipped on his lights and pulled them over. That was quite a roller coaster ride of emotions for me. I was at a touristy place at the top of a big cliff. People were hanging around at the top. Just enjoying the view. And this one guy was eating a sandwich while staring at his phone. After he was done, he couldn't be bothered to find a trash can so he went to throw the sandwich wrappings off the cliff. But he got his hands confused and hurled his phone off the cliff instead. A person tried to shove past me in the hallway. Immediately after, a door opened up into the hallway and slammed him in the face. So it's winter and everything is covered in snow. I'm going home from a friend's place and I see my laces untied. I grab a nearby tree so I can maintain my balance while I put the lace inside my S, and immediately after grabbing a tree a ton of snow falls on my head. A woman that was walking behind me starts laughing at me, and right after she walks by me she slipped on the ice and fell down. I had a good laugh of revenge. Was walking down the street and a Porsche gunned it to make a left turn in front of me at the entrance of a gas station. He missed hitting me by about a foot. He cut it too close and hit the curb and tore his front bumper off. Pedestrian crossing the street. Everyone stops for him except one guy in the last lane blasts his horn and blows through the intersection, nearly running the pedestrian over. There was an unmarked police car right behind him that immediately pulled him over. Two of my friends and I were playing Monopoly sometime around freshman year of high school. One of my friends owned all the railroads, meaning any player who landed on a railroad would pay him 200. The entire game felt like I was just moving my token from railroad to railroad, paying my friend each time, having no opportunity to buy properties, and getting super frustrated. In reality it was probably only 2 or 3 times. On my next roll, I quickly calculate which space I was going to land on as I start to move my token. And lo and behold, I was going to land on another railroad. I gracefully slide, cheat, past the railroad and plop my piece on the next space. Chance card reads something as follows. Move token to nearest railroad. Pay owner twice the amount. Double quote. I lost my dude I worked with, pizza delivery, hit my bumper and scratched in the parking lot. A customer called him out on it. He denied it and went on his delivery. On that delivery he was T-boned and his car was totaled. Had he come into the store to tell me and apologize, I would have forgiven it. Instead he had to pay $500 for a new bumper paint job and lost his car. A week ago my husband was on a work trip and he got a free upgrade to first class. He got on the plane and sat down in 3A. A few minutes later a woman boards and tells him in a white tone, "Excuse me, you're in my seat." He takes out his ticket and shows it to her politely. She also has a ticket for 3A. She insists he needs to move because she paid for that seat and it's hers. A flight attendant gets involved and my husband says he'll move. He was very polite. So the flight attendant has him stand aside and says hopefully there will be another first class seat. They're about to close up the plane and the flight attendant welcomes them on their flight to Charlotte. And the woman in 3A goes, "Oh, she got on the wrong flight. Idiot." My husband felt very smug watching her leave and enjoyed his 3A seat. I got punched in the face by my cousin. I was 14 at the time and he was 8. He yelled, "I am invincible," and held his fists up to assert dominance. And then he turned 180 into a wooden support post in our basement. He sat down covering his face and started crying, and I was trying to maintain a concerned and worried look, but it was just funny as hell. In high school had a kid punch me for like no reason. I would have punched him back, but the principal and the resource officer had literally just walked around the corner and saw it. They walk up and ask the other kids, "Did the lightning count one provoke Bob here?" Double quote. Kids shook their heads. "Did the lightning count one strike Bob before just now?" Double quote. Kids shook their heads. Resource officer cuffed Bob and took him to the office. He was a multiple offender and this was the last straw. He was expelled and we never saw him again. A story I learned about recently. When I was still in architecture school, a professor gave his class an exercise. One student came up with a project with a lot of ramps for disabled people. The professor started laughing and asked her to remove them because no one will use them. A month after or so, he lost his leg. That's a remarkably ignorant position for an architecture professor to take. Leg or no leg, accommodations for people with disabilities make everyone's lives easier. What did people with dollies full of packages or strollers full of babies do before curb cuts?